If you've been on the trip, please raise your hand or say hello in the text. We might call on you later to say a few words about the tour. But tonight we're going to talk about the Heart of New Hampshire trip. So it's 7 o'clock. I'll wait about 2 more minutes for everybody to come before I start the official introduction. We've got Tiffany here, Mannion. I'll talk about her and Darren. So they're our amazing New Hampshire team.
The dream team.
The dream team. The dream team. We're the dream team. Who do we got here? Trying to see. Luca's here. Finalmente. Luca Paris. So I keep calling Luca Parisi, which I'm convinced that's the original name. Luca's going to be doing a cooking presentation from his restaurant, Luca's Mediterranean Cafe, that we go to on night 1. So he's going to do a great presentation, and he is part of our dream team. He's also he's president of the Keene Chamber of Commerce. So part of our long-term strategy of bringing cyclists and curious spirits to the Monadnock region. Okay, well, it's 7:02. I think I'll get started. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming. This is a very special talk. I'll try not to cry. This is about really where I grew up. As many of you know, I grew up in Keene, New Hampshire. I went to grammar school and junior high school here and high school, which is about the time that I started discovering cycling. And just like my future hub of Tuscany, Keene for me was a wonderful place. For a person like myself who loved the outdoors and who loved to bicycle. So I really did discover bicycle travel from Keene. I had my map every Saturday, and I routed out places that we go actually 30, 40 years later. And it's a delightful cycling hub. And what I consider a great cycling hub is one place where you can go in many different directions each day and do an entirely different route, and not just a different route, but see an entirely different geography and entirely different culture. And that's what Keene is. And so this, this trip, as I said, is based in southern New Hampshire, southwest New Hampshire to be specific, in the Monadnock region, also called Cheshire County. So we've got, like I said, we've got two experts here, and then we've got also Luca Paris. And so if they want to hop on at one point and add some more things about Keene that I miss, I don't want to miss anything. So as you know, Ciclismo Classico specializes primarily in Europe, but as a pivot from COVID, I quickly decided that I wanted to do what I'd always dreamt about, which was to bring my passion for cycling and our Italian template that has been so successful back to my beloved New England, which I really do love. And I really feel that of all the places I've ever traveled in the United States, that New England really comes the closest to having the vibe of Europe. Really, it does. The architecture, the food, the people, the evolution of the economies there, and the colonial spirit and the indigenous spirit. It really does. So today's show there's a lot of slides, but we'll get through them pretty quickly. And we're going to talk about the region and the tour and the variations of the tour that we're going to be doing. Here we go, slideshow, thank you. Okay, so as you know, our Ciclismo mission has always been educational mission as well as a cycling mission. We really work very, very hard to develop the best itineraries that we can, that have a lovely flow, that have great food, great accommodations, and we bring together quite a lovely collection of people. This table on the left-hand side here is in Tuscany, and we like to have a lot of fun. I would say that is a very big part of our mission, of our Ciclismo Classico mission. And I really was very intentional as we developed our tours on the East Coast to try to bring that same thing here. It's all about passion. When we did a branding study years ago, and all of our staff and many of our guests were interviewed, including myself, the word that kept coming over and over again from the people that work with us and our team and our guests is passion. We love what we do. We hire people that love bicycling and love travel as Darren and Tiffany do. And that passion comes out in everything that we do. So we have a lot of passion for this itinerary, as you will see. And I guided it several times, and I just love it. It's really a delightful place. So we really have brought a lot of passion to this trip. Sorry. Sorry, backwards, please. Backwards, not ready. So anyway, welcome to New Hampshire. So why do we love cycling in New Hampshire? Oops, sorry, crash. Why do we love cycling in New Hampshire? Well, there's a tremendous network of roads, and not just dirt roads, but a lot of nice paved roads. This particular area has a tremendous network of roads. There's great scenery everywhere you turn. There's great fitness you can have, villages. I will add wildlife. Last summer, I saw my first bear cross the road on one of our rides. It was amazing. There's a lot of wildlife, and particularly this area, which is this is Surrey Mountain Dam, and this whole area has become a new conservation area in New Hampshire. So New Hampshire also has a tremendous number of acreage in terms of that's dedicated to conservation. So I would say New Hampshire people really do love the land. Live free or die is our motto. Oops, sorry, going backward again. And there's superlative cycling no matter which way you go. This is an example of one of the roads that we ride. I would say 5% of what we ride in this route is, and I wouldn't call it gravel, I would call it hard packed dirt. And for those of you who have ridden on hard packed dirt, it's very smooth and it's very soft. Of course, with a little bit of moisture, it gets a little softer, but it's actually a very nice surface. It's not rough gravel. So it's just amazing cycling every single way. And we have worked very, very hard, like I said, to create amazing routes that zigzag through this incredible countryside. This particular photo is really one of my favorites. It's a kind of a crossing of 4 roads, and it's just stunning. History and small town charm wherever you go. Check out the store, the Drewsville General Store. This is near Walpole. If you look real closely, you'll see a skeleton on the top and all kinds of paraphernalia. I think this is one of the oldest general stores in the region. There's a lot of pride in these little places. You walk inside and people know your name, as they say. And it's really, if you love kind of going back in time, that will happen on this trip. This is a stone arch bridge, amazing architecture. If you have been to New Hampshire, you might know that there's granite everywhere. Granite is kind of our, is a very important and very readily available natural feature. You see it everywhere. So you'll see stone walls and a lot of things made out of granite. So here we're going to talk about the trip as a big picture overview. It's a 5-day tour, 4 nights and 5 days, and we fill each one of those days with lots of beautiful landscape and beautiful scenery and culture and food. And we really tried to make a nice flow. It warms up nicely. There's a couple of hard days, and then we end with Mount Monadnock on the last day. If the whole group wants to not hike the mountain, we also have some other options for you. This trip is nice because we actually are developing a very easy version of this, a medium length version, which this one is kind of we're going to talk about, and also we've developed a very long version where there's some very long routes, including and Darren can speak about that when we get to it, but some very long routes which are 50 to 60 to 70 miles, but the average mile of our origin trip, the heart of New Hampshire, is about 35 to 50 miles a day. It's a good amount of climbing, but like I said, we do have easier options. So our first day, everyone arrives in Keene at around noon. We do our typical warm up talk and overview the trip in downtown Keene. We stay at one hotel right near the center. You literally look out your window and there's that beautiful central square, and right down from Luca's restaurant. The first day, another special thing about Keene that wasn't there when I grew up are these bike paths. This is one of the bike paths that we warm up on. So we leave town, go around the square, and we pop on this bike path, and we do a very short, easy, flat road ride to Swansea and over the covered bridges. So I'm going to move along, and I wanted to also, I'm going to let Tiffany, I'm going to introduce Tiffany here. Tiffany Mannion is our Renaissance woman, once bike mayor of Keene, passionate traveler, and another passionate native who she lives in Swansea. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit about Swansea. And please do put your questions in the chat. But she'll talk about that, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up on day one. Go ahead, take it away. Take it away, Tiffany.
Thanks, Lauren. So I'm new to the company, but have spoken with many of you already. So super happy to see some familiar names here. So I have written in about, I think, 18 different countries, but but I'm not a native here. So I was born in Concord, Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts. So if you ask anyone who lives here, I'm a Flatlander. I've been here for 20 years, and I think I'll be officially a resident in another 20 years, but I love it. I studied the history of art and architecture at Harvard as a grad student and fell in love with my house, which is from 1770. I have the oldest house in East Swansea. So in this picture, what you're looking at right now is Carlton Covered Bridge, which is arguably one of the oldest covered bridges in the country. It's a Queen Anne's construction bridge. And hopefully you'll come up here and I'll meet you at the bridge, because it's only about a half a mile from my house, and I can pedal down to meet you and give you a little talk about what makes this particular bridge so incredible. It's only got, I think it's a 21-foot span, but it's really remarkable in its architecture. Swansea was founded by actually a whole bunch of people from a bar in Concord, Massachusetts, actually, who all gave £5 and they came up here and settled the town in 1753. Left it a few years later and came back up to resettle it. Probably 6 years after they originally came. There's a story there, but I don't have time for it right now. This is our covered bridge. Swansea has 3 of them. Keene has none. Keene had a whole bunch, but they were destroyed because covered bridges were built mainly for railway traffic. And when you have coal trains running over wooden bridges, they burn down. So Swansea still has many, and they were used for predominantly horses and cars. So we still have 3. This is a really sweet one that's over in the west part of town, so you'll go over this one too.
Great, thank you. Could you say a word about the native son of Swansea that the Potash Bowl is named after?
Yeah, so Denman Thompson is a really fascinating playwright, actually. He has we have a Swansea native who wasn't really born here, but his family was one of the original people who came up here from Concord, Massachusetts. So Denman moved here when he was 14. He lived here until he was 17. And he was the 4th generation to live in Swansea from the Thompson family. And so he went off and joined the circus, actually. And through this various run of different odd jobs as a stage performer, which was rowdy and raucous and really obscene, he ended up writing a play, and it became super popular, so popular that it holds the record in American playwright history as the longest running play in American history. So he grossed about $3 million in the 1850s from this play. But there's another really fascinating story about his best friend, who was a really infamous bank robber who also lived in Swansea. And I'm much more attracted by that story because I sat through the Old Homestead play, and it's 4 hours long, and it was not very good. So I like the bank robber more. But actually you ride by his house, the bank robber's house, on the trip.
Well, I think, and what happens all the time, as you know, if you've been to Europe, and what's so great about this area is that there's all kinds of characters and personalities. I mean, the whole place is filled with them. And what's been so delightful for me, as I went back and researched this the summer of 2020, I started to discover where I lived again. And thanks to modern mapping, tools on your phone and Google, I was Googling everything constantly. This is our route back. So like I said, it's a very easy ride. It's the perfect warm-up ride. And we head back to Keene, and there's a lot of these bridges like this, and then we head back, and this is just outside, and I'm going to let Tiffany talk again, but I'll just say a couple of words. We head back to the hotel, we wash up really quickly, and then I have Alan Rumrill, who I went to high school with, and you'll hear that a lot as I do this trip. Oh yeah, I went to high school with you, or oh yeah, we went to high school together, which is another fun part of this. And Alan Rumwell is like the consummate historian, and he does a walking tour of what you're looking at here is one of 17 murals of downtown Keene. And these only came to Keene in 2019, but it was the perfect town for what is now called the Wall Dog murals. And you could Google that and you can hear a story about each one of these murals, but they're all over the town. They were handpicked, their locations. And the Wall Dogs are a group of loose muralists from all over the country, maybe even the world, and they descend upon a town that's pre-selected a year or two in advance. And then when they kind of pick what they want to do, they select a bunch of themes, and then the town, long story short, but they actually, the townspeople select what's going to get painted on their walls. And so they had, I think, I don't know, 80 topics or something like that, Tiffany. And then they put the topics in a room, and the local people, just the townspeople, voted on what they wanted to cover. And so when you come to Keene, you'll see these murals, and I love murals. I just love them. And I participated in this. And I literally just kind of held a paintbrush and, painted in the squares, but it was an amazing project. And each one of these murals has a very important historic, and I'll wait till you come to Keene to learn about each one of them, but each one of the personalities or places that is featured in these murals, opens up a whole amazing chapter of Keene's history. And Annie Powers, real quickly, this is one of my absolute favorites, this is everyone's favorite. She was the heroic agent for human and animal rights. And she wore a badge, and she had a gun at the side of her bed. And she didn't let anybody, abuse kids or ladies or animals, or they would hear from her. So that's quickly who Annie Powers is. And then there's another mural here. Well, I'm not going to talk about each mural, but this is Barry Faulkner. And Tiffany, after I finish, you can just add some, whatever I miss. This is another one of the murals downtown. So we take a tour, as you know, in Chiclismo trips, we love walking tours, and we've got a lot of energy. Our cyclists always have a lot of energy. So we take about a 2-hour walking tour of downtown Keene. We talk about the architecture, and all of these murals are within a mile radius. Tiffany, did you have anything else you wanted to add about the murals?
No, it was a fascinating time. I was a docent for one of the murals when they went in, but it really captures a lot of this fantastic history. The man who won the Boston Marathon the most and holds the record for that is from Keene. Still to this day, I think he won the Boston Marathon 7 times. Just so many, it really delves into the culture and community of the area.
Yep.
It's brilliant.
I think what this project also did in 2019, it was they drew them on Wednesday. The murals came in, they drew them on the walls on Wednesday all night long. It rained on Thursday, and then they got them all done by Sunday. So this is a 4-day project. And what we all saw, from Keene and visitors from Keene, you saw a community spirit that was incredible, which I think Keene always had, but me returning back and over again, I'm just in love with the community spirit of Keene. I've always have been, but it's growing, it's glowing. And there's new people like Tiffany and Darren who are recent implants, and they are just bringing all the passion. So what I really think this trip is great is that you're going to feel the community spirit of the area. And this Wall Dog Festival brought a lot of pride. Definitely Google it if you have a moment after the show. Google Wall Dog tour of Magical Mystery Tour of Keene, and there's a nice video. Peter Panessa, I went to high school with him, and he was the director of the project, and he's a sign painter. Most all the signs all over Keene were painted by Peter, and he was the perfect guy to direct this. So anyway, that's day one. I better get moving. So this is the route that we take for day one. But I just wanted to make a nice introduction. So this is the route. It's a lollipop route, as a lot of the routes we take. We go a little bit of out and back in the beginning, and then it's an easy, 23 miles, 630 feet. And this is Swansea Lake. Another thing about Southern New Hampshire, bring your bathing suit. The lakes are beautiful and clean and nice and cool in the summertime. Okay, day 2. Another favorite ride. This goes out to Swansea. Another lollipop ride goes out to Surrey Mountain Dam, and then goes out to Walpole and loops back through Alstead, East Alstead, West Alstead, down a big giant hill, and back around back around again. This is this Surrey Mountain Dam was the place I always rode to as a kid. It's a glorious place to swim. This mountainside here is all just wild land. I mean, I saw a cougar one time cross the road right near here on Route 12A. I thought it was a golden retriever. No, it was a cougar. So it was amazing. But these animals are afraid of us, so don't worry, no problem. But so we start this ride is another glorious ride, real quiet roads. We go along the Brentwood Golf Course. We go up to Surrey Mountain Dam. As you can see, this is like early fall. Foliage season is amazing. And then we go up, we go back and forth along the dam. Then we go. This is from the other side. This is an beautiful June, glorious spring day in June. You can see everything just blooming. This is Surrey Mountain. One of the trips we're developing, which is going to be a really easy trip. If you want to bring your family here, or you want a super easy trip, we're developing. We're going to call it Magic Mount Monadnock Magic, and we'll take a walks versus bike rides around here. But this is you can go swimming here. It's a beautiful dam. Interestingly enough, there's lake mussels here. Did you ever see that, Tiffany or Darren? They actually, if you go swimming here, you literally are walking on mussels. It's very odd. I need to find out what's that all about. Okay, so then we go up 12A and then we begin our climb. It's not too long. It's like maybe a couple miles, but it starts out steep and then it kind of levels out. And this is the glorious view from the top of Walpole hillside. And looking out, we're looking at Vermont, looking at Mount Stowe and a different Mount Snow, or a few of the Green Mountains over there. And on a glorious, clear day as this was, it's a beautiful view. The descent is magnificent. It's an Italian descent. For those of you who've been to Italy, it's a zigzagging 5-mile descent that never ends. But again, it actually then does. Apple orchards are galore up here. We take plenty of pictures. And then I'm going to let Tiffany jump back in again. We descend to Walpole, magical place. She'll tell you who the favorite sons and daughters of Walpole are. But this is the green of Walpole. And if you've been to Europe, you know that there's a piazza, and in the piazza, there's a church and there's a city hall and there's a library. Well, New England is laid out very similarly. You have a lot of these New England towns that are laid out like we're laid out like a European town, and for a reason. I mean, they want, the people wanted to be close to each other, and the state and church were in one square. So this Walpole is a perfect example of that. Tiffany, why don't you say a few words about Walpole?
Yeah, but Walpole is sort of the Park Ave, I would guess, of the Monadnock region. So real estate is very expensive, but it's a very, very precious little place. Ken Burns' studio is located super close to where this picture was taken, Florentine Films. Another famous thing about Walpole is L.A. Burdick's chocolate, founded by Larry Burdick, who is a native of Nantucket and moved up here, studied chocolate making in France, moved to Walpole, set up shop. And now he has shops in Chicago, Manhattan, Boston, Cambridge, one right outside Harvard Square, which incidentally is where Mark Zuckerberg took his now wife on their very first date. So every now and again, they'll post a picture, they shut Burdick's down and they have reenact their first date at Burdick's, Mark and his wife, and now their little baby. And
we have a writer from Walpole as well, many writers.
Lots of writers from Walpole. Yep. Also home of Bensonwood, which is a wood timber frame building company that is known throughout the world. So they build houses here. They build bridges in Japan. Their work is featured all over the world, literally.
I was thinking of Alcott, right? Little Women.
No, they weren't up here. They were in Western Mass. Yeah. Okay. The Alcott family, Concord, and then Western Mass. Yeah. Okay. But there are a lot of authors in Walpole, New Hampshire.
Who am I thinking
of? Lauren, no, you're actually correct. Louisa May Alcott spent a couple, I think 1855 to 1857, she spent living in downtown Walpole.
I have never heard that. So I'm so glad to be at this presentation.
Yeah, you learn. That's part of being a tour guide, as you know. We're really always learning things. So we stopped at Burdick's for lunch, and the story behind another piece of story. And that what's so interesting about this area is there's a lot of entrepreneurs here, and the founder of Burdick's Chalkbook, as Tiffany was saying, they're all over the place. But the wife of the founder, what put them on the map were these little mice, and what put the mice on the map were these little ribbons on their back. And these folks lived in Europe, they lived in Switzerland, and they love Swiss chocolate. So when they sort of stole all the rest of it, they borrowed all the recipes from wherever they were in Switzerland, and they brought all their machinery back. And so they had this kind of European inspiration, as a lot of places in New England did. I mean, a lot of the entrepreneurs and a lot of the colonists and the people that live here really have, grew their places inspired by Europe. We cycled from Walpole along this glorious road. And I will quote one of our guests from Texas who said, "This looks a lot like Tuscany." So I said, well, I'm going to quote you there. And if he's in the audience, I'll say hello. But he and I would not disagree. A lot of big open fields and rolling roads. We climb our way up to Alstead. This is Lake Warren, one of the many lakes that we pass. As you can see, this is kind of late September foliage. It wasn't peaking. I mean, the reds weren't really bright this year. Normally the reds are super bright, but they weren't that bright this year. But this is a rest, as you know, like on a Ciclismo tour, every 10 miles or so, we have a regroup spot with snacks and opportunities to take your breath and to chat with others. And this is one of those breaks. And then, of course, after Lake Warren, there's this magnificent, we climb, and then there's this magnificent downhill into the town of Gilsum. And Gilsum is another cute little town. It's actually known for its, this whole area has a lot of rich mineral. It was once a lot of mining went on in Surrey Mountain and here, and they actually have an annual mineral festival, Gem and Mineral Festival in Gilsum. And then we end in the little town of Gilsum, and we stop at a local cider shop, and we taste a little cider, a little hard cider. You can buy a lot of little places like this to shop along the way. And these are all local people that just started these little micro businesses, and they're growing, and it's really fun to visit them. And then we cycled back along the Ashwellet River, one of the largest rivers in the area, named after, again, it's an indigenous name. One of my very favorite roads. I again cycled this as a kid. It's 5 miles zigzagging all along this river, no cars or very few. And when the river is high, we stop and dip our toes in the water. A lot of fly fishermen here. And this is the route, another lollipop route. We leave Keene, go along to Brentwood Golf Course to Surrey. Then we zigzag our way up to Walpole, drop down into the town, and then zigzag our way back up to Alstead. And then we pass Lake Warren, drop down to Gilsum, and then zigzag along this river road, and then head back. And it's a smooth shot back to Keene along Court Street, which is a magnificent road with beautiful, all kinds of Italianate homes and beautiful architecture. And I haven't even touched upon all the architecture of Keene. Day 3, and Tiffany's going to jump in when we talk about Harrisville. Day 3 is a classic cycling bike ride that all the cyclists do. It's a classic place to visit in the Monadnock region. We leave Keene, and it's probably the hardest ride with the most up and down elevation. We go to Sullivan. We stop at an animal rescue place and meet a lovely woman named Deborah and all of her farm animals and saved animals. And then we dip down, we go to Nelson, and then dip down to Hancock and Harrisville, and then back again. This is the Harrisville General Store. I'll let Tiffany, you can say something about that in a few minutes when we talk about Harrisville, but again, a great place I used to bike to as a kid. It's a classic general store. It's been around for a long, long time. They have great sandwiches, and it's been there for a long time, and it has a lot of the traditional stuff as well as kind of changing with the times. This is on the ride. There's a spot where these folks have put a frame because it is actually a perfect picture. And this whole area, by the way, it's kind of like the little mini lakes area of New Hampshire. I think there's like 30 or 40 lakes and ponds. This is Nelson. It's a little village. It was so funny. I told people were riding ahead of me on the first trip, and I said, stop at the next village. And, they just passed right through. They didn't, I had to describe to people what a village in New Hampshire is, which means a church and a library and a school. But it's a neat little town. Its claim to fame is it's the oldest, longest running contra dance in the country. And if you don't know what contra dancing is, it's a version of line dance. It's square dancing in a line, basically. Again, one of those activities that New Hampshire kids did when they were in high school, followed by a jump in a nice cold lake. That was my upbringing. So this is an example of some of the riding. We ride along this, well, you can't see to the left, but there's a beautiful lake on the left. And then we get to Hancock, and Hancock is our lunch stop. We've had 2 stops up until now. So this is our 3rd stop for lunch. We get here around noon, 12:30, and we have a delicious lunch at Fiddlehead's Cafe. Hancock is the home base for, was named after John Hancock, one of the signers of the Constitution, but also we've got some great writers here, some contemporary writers, Cy Montgomery and her husband, great inspiration from the area. Here we are in Hancock, again, downtown Hancock. We've got the gazebo and the church, and over here is the police station and the town hall, all in one little place. And then from here we start zigzagging. Oh no, sorry. This is a great graveyard. If you love graveyards, we've got back to the Revolutionary War here. If you wander around, it's one of the oldest graveyards around with some of the most famous folk in it. So it's a great little stop on the way.
That's a good picture too, Lauren, because it points out the stone walls that you'll probably see in so many of these pictures. New Hampshire has about 10,000 miles of stone walls,
Wow.
which were built. A man and an oxen could build about 16.5 feet in one day. So 10,000 miles. That was a survey that was done in the 1850s of the state of New Hampshire.
Wow. So, I mean, so you look at the trees, right? And this is a young forest. So in the 1830s, this is a great segue into New Harrisville, right? In the 1830s, New Hampshire and New England kind of looked like Ireland, and these stone walls were property dividers, right? And prior to that, they used wooden fences, and we'll talk about the sheep. But this whole area, Tiffany's correct, and another statistic I heard is all over New England, some engineer. They did a calculation of the number of total miles of stone walls in New England, and I think it's 150,000. And some engineer did another calculation and said, if you could weigh them all, it would be the same weight of all the Egyptian pyramids, which I thought was an interesting little statistic. Okay, this again, I just love this spot. This is one of my favorite spots. We stop here for lots of photos. It's, as many of you who know, travel with me, I just can't stop taking pictures. So this is one of my favorite photo stops. I forgot the name of this road, but Darren knows the name of the road. What's the name of the road, Darren?
Is that in Marlboro?
Yeah,
No,
no, this is in Harrisville. This is Jackwith Road. It's one of my favorite roads in the world. It's just so fun, rolling through farm country, classic colonial homes. It's just so pretty.
Yeah, and one thing too is if you come in the summertime, it's hot, yes, but it's very cool. These roads are just covered with, shaded with trees, and you're never out in the sun for too long. And all along this road, I mean, the people just beyond this site, there's a beautiful sculpture garden that people often just bike right past. But we go downhill from here, and then we start heading towards Harrisville. And then we go past, I think, 3 or 4 lakes along the way. And here we are in Harrisville. So I'm going to let Tiffany, our Harrisville expert, talk a little bit about the history of Harrisville.
I love this town so much. So Harrisville is the best preserved industrial town in New England. So it really was hold on for 1 second. It was the pinnacle of sheep farming in the 1850s. When 1812 we lost all of our all of our wool here because we were getting it imported from England. The ambassador to Portugal arranged for the export of 4,000 merino wool sheep. They came to Vermont. And from 1820, the sheep came here. From 1820 to 1850, 4,000 sheep grew to about 1.5 million. And all of that wool is processed, grown up in Walpole and Harrisville and Hancock. Hancock actually had the largest apple orchard in the world in 1850. And then everything is run through this small town of Harrisville, super well preserved. They have an incredible historic district and oversight committee that takes care of all of that. They own the general store, and it's a very dynamic part of like living here. I think I think everyone that I know goes there for breakfast on a Saturday morning. So here's some of the mill complexes you're taking a look at, both granite and brick. Part of them by the Harris family, part of them built by the Colony family. The Colony family still lives there. So it's a beautiful story and a long story, but it talks about really a testament to New England ingenuity. The water falls there at a precipitous drop. So they built their first mill there in the really early or late 1700s, early 1800s, and they just kept adding on to it. With 2 train stations in the town, you could load bolts of wool onto the trains and they would be in Manhattan on the same day on the shelves, unloaded and ready to sell. So a really important part for this very, very small town. During the summers, the population of Harrisville grows from about 4,000 to about 8,000 people. We have a lot of folks from New York City who come up for the summers. They have homes here in Harrisville, lots of lakes there. And so that absolutely bustling tiny town.
Yeah, and I guess it's really it's been frozen in time. I mean, it's exactly the way I remember it. They've done a very deliberate job in preserving the buildings. I mean, no development whatsoever, a strict standard. So, and all of these beautiful stone buildings, you can come and learn about the architecture. It's just quite fascinating. Up and here's our gal.
Oh,
Tiffany.
there's me. Yeah.
Doing a little tour, a little walking tour. Some days you're going to learn about, we go to a beekeeper, and if the beekeeper's not available, we will visit, Tiffany will give us a walking tour, or both. And here's another example of the mill. Tiffany, you had said something, not this building, but the other building, you were talking about how this, I thought it was fascinating, the way the stone pattern, you could tell one wealthy owner from another because certain owners had a stone pattern, right, to the homes?
Yeah, it was the way they laid the brick. Yeah, and this one has a monitor roof, which is that row of lights up at the top. So you'd have a lot of women working up there during the day. It was a great way. It meant that the owners had extra money because glass was expensive, so they could do that and use that third floor as space for people to work there. But you can't see it in these pictures, but when we're in Harrisville, you can see that the way the Flemish bond pattern in the brickwork will tell you a lot about the families that lived here and how much money they had and how much they cared about this really tiny community.
Yeah, I mean, like anywhere you go, I mean, historic architecture tells a story. And this place tells plenty of stories and plenty of personalities, and we will learn about them as much as we can. Here's the inside of this is the they don't make wool here anymore, correct? Or do they?
They do make wool there. Yes, they do. Yep, and they're doing a really big renovation on one of their massive machines that they still have from the 1970s. So they do still use it for wool. Yeah.
So this is a store, right? Again, we stop in Harrisville, we have a snack, we walk around, you take some photographs, and this is the store that you can walk through and buy if you love, of course, any wool products or yarn or anything like that, but there's lots of other cute little things to buy. And then here is a lovely, one of the just most exquisite little sections of Harrisville. I just love this road. And you come, I will probably ask you to ride your bike, and so you can pose for me as I take a photograph. But these are some of the private homes along this little road.
And the whole in all, there's probably 27 buildings in downtown, maybe. So it's an extremely small town, but an extremely important one to our community. Yep.
So here and then everyone's favorite place. I don't know if Suzanne is in the audience here. If she is, you can wave, Suzanne. But this is Suzanne Brule, and she is the passionate owner of Slovenia Beekeeping. And I tell you, this was an interesting find. I was biking along with a bunch of friends in Harrisville, and I saw these colorful, another view, a colorful, this building with these colorful kind of drawers. And I'm like, what the heck? And I stopped and took a picture. When I got home, I looked it up. And sure enough, I found Suzanne. And of course, I went to high school with her. We didn't quite remember each other class, but she had left Keene, as some people do, but she came back. and she's got her family here and her mom here. And she went to Slovenia. She lived in Slovenia. And anyway, you learn her whole story, but again, she basically, we do a little tasting. She basically she's a beekeeper, and she makes, she's passionate about it, and she tell you the whole story of her bees, and that come to find out, Harrisville's got a few beekeepers, which I thought was wonderful. And of course, we all know how important bees are. So we just love to stop and hang out with Suzanne. She's fun. She's got a great garden, and boy, does she make great honey liqueur. So we have a little taste of that. And luckily this is at the very end of our ride. So don't worry, you can always hop in the van. She'll tell you all about how she makes it. And these are all the variations. There's raspberry honey, there's ginger honey. I don't even know all the names. So we spent a little time with her. And this is one of our guests. So basically, Slovenia beekeeping is a drawer method, which is, you really should Google it if you like beekeeping or curious, because it's a very different methodology. And it seems like, according to Suzanne, it really is it saves a lot of energy, and it's very, very, it is one of the most popular activities in Slovenia. It's a very community-driven activity. So very fascinating story. And here we are in front of this is what I saw from the road when I was biking by. And I, drew my curiosity. And this is one of our groups enjoying Suzanne's tour of her garden. It was just lovely. Just everyone loves Suzanne. She's just fun. And if she's not there, she's in Slovenia doing her beekeeping tours, which we might actually integrate with our Slovenia bike tour. So that could be another happening. So here's day 3. It's our longest day, 46 miles, 3,900 feet. You can cut it off if you like. There's plenty of places where you can, we start in Keene. We go up through Sullivan, as I said, we come down, go up to Nelson, go down and go this gorgeous road to Hancock, up and over and down into Harrisville, along all these, see all these lakes, look at them all, there's tons of them. And then from Harrisville, we go along some more lakes, and then we drop down to Marlborough and to Keene. So if you want to get a shuttle back from Harrisville, that's possible. As I said, we also are developing a much, much, much tamer version of this trip for families and just people that just don't want to ride as much. And that will be just to this area here. Okay, that last cycling day, and then we'll be at Monadnock, and I'm going to try to hurry it along so I have time for questions. So last day is Pucham and the Connecticut River. And this was, it's a great ride. Again, goes past my childhood home, or very close, and goes up along a bike path. And then from the bike path, we go along Hurricane Road, which is one of the most beautiful roads I know. And we drop into Westmoreland, and then we ride up to Pucham along the Connecticut River and up to the Pucham family winery. Oh, this is it. This is where it all began. It's not my house, but it's very close to my home in New Hampshire. And this is one of the most photographed farms in all of New Hampshire. It's a postcard. It's a little out of focus, I see. But anyway, this is sort of like the soulful. This is where I left my soul in New Hampshire. But here we go, climbing up the Park Hill towards the River Road. This is an amazing church, considered one of the best, most preserved, best New England examples of a church architecture in New England. The Park Hill Meeting House. It's also a religious destination. And then we go along the River Road, and who knew that there was a winery in New Hampshire? I certainly did not. And I was scouting out this trip, and as I was scouting out the trip, I saw this road. I said, Pucham Road. I go, well, that's interesting. I Googled it, and Pucham is an indigenous word that means gathering place. So when I found that out, I rode up the hill, and then I came along. It was during COVID, so nobody was there. And I found the sign. I'm like, oh my God, there's a winery in New Hampshire. I can't believe it. So of course I went home and I Googled the winery. I reached out to the owner, and guess what? I went to high school with him. So
Yes.
Steve here tells us another story. Another guy who was a passionate, started making wine as a kid. He made potato wine, and he has a whole big story to tell. And he's developing this lovely little vineyard. We stopped there for snacks and a tour of his vineyard. Beautiful place. And they make pretty good wine. I mean, it actually has got the right kind of soil. There's a lot of, it's a very granular soil. This was actually where a glacier went through here. So it actually has a lot of stone in the soil. So it's actually, the drainage is great. So it's a great place for wine, according to what Steve says. So we stop here and have a great walk, this gorgeous, gorgeous vineyard, and pick fresh peaches off the trees. And his wife here, Miriam, I worked with her in high school. So again, sorry, but there's all these connections. And it's just, but it's a delightful visit. And it's another example of, New England entrepreneurialism at its best. Here's a view of the vineyard in the fall, after all the grapes have been picked. And then we go from the Puchem Winery down to the Connecticut River, and we have a picnic at this lovely spot. It's actually another homegrown business. It's called Stone Garden Farms, and they've developed this little spot of the Connecticut River where they have weddings, but they allow us to stop here for lunch. So this is the Connecticut River. This is the river that starts in the Connecticut and it's basically the dividing line between New Hampshire and Vermont. So you're looking over here at Vermont. And there used to be a ferry in the old days across from New Hampshire to Vermont. And it's really great cycling road. Again, very little traffic. This is where I saw the bear cross the road. Beautiful farms and farmhouses all along the way. And we have a nice big picnic here. And that's a Connecticut River, which you can swim in actually. And and we actually, for the trip, we're developing the kind of mild mannered version. We're going to have a little day of kayaking on the Connecticut River. Okay. And then we go along the Connecticut River and up to Chesterfield. And these towns were later called Chesterfield. The original name of this town was Fort Town No. 1. So these were all towns that were developed as a result of, the colonists, and they basically called them fort towns. So this was number 1. As you can see, different kind of architecture, well, different kind of stone than the other places. I love this building. It's beautiful. Sorry, did you have anything else to say, Tiffany, about Westmoreland or Chesterfield or anything? Or
no, I've ridden through there. It's absolutely stunning. It's just breathtakingly beautiful.
So we descend from Chesterfield down to Spofford Lake, one of the cleanest lakes in New Hampshire. It's a great little lake. It's right off Route 9. We're very, very close to Vermont here. We're about 15 miles at the most from Brattleboro, Vermont. So if there is a rain day, by chance, we have a lot of other activities. Like one day we had a rain day and we just went to Brattleboro and spent the day there and found a nice little brewery. A lot of great breweries. So this is a Stonewall Farm. Again, it's right literally a mile from where I grew up, but it was not here when I grew up. And they developed this beautiful kind of collection of farm buildings. And they have a lot of activities here. Tiffany, you probably know, probably even done things here. They have a kind of little mountain biking rides and things for kids. It's a great little destination.
Mm-hmm. Summer camp for kids, weddings, business meetings. It's always busy there. Yeah.
This is the bike path. So we end the bike path and we zoom back to our downtown Keene. So these bike paths are great. They go in 3 different directions, and they're expanding on them. They're going to develop them. We had a meeting, Tiffany, Darren, and I, and Luca Paris, who's in the audience, and had a meeting with the mayor of Keene, and we talked a lot about the vision of Keene as a bicycling community, as a bicycling destination, which we really believe it really has a bright future. So that's how we end the ride. This is the route. We go out to Keene. We go, as I mentioned, out this direction here towards Hurricane Road. We drop down Puchem Family Winery, go along the Connecticut. Here's the Puchem Family Winery. And then we go along the Connecticut River, have a picnic. We zigzag in this direction. This is kind of a bit of a hill here. And then we go up to Chesterfield, drop down to Spofford Lake, go along Spofford Lake, the north side of Spofford Lake, and tough little climb here, up and down, and then nice big descent back into Keene. So you can always guarantee your return back to Keene will be a descent, because it's a big giant bowl in the Monadnock region, which is one of the reasons why it economically really fostered. Okay, and then we have all these. Haven't even talked about the meals we have. One of them at Luca's, and another one at Machina, and another one at the Stage. So we have great dinners each evening, and then the last day we have a climb up Mount Monadnock. the second most climbed mountain in the world. The first one is Mount Fujiyama, and Mount Monadnock is probably because of its location. It's it's in New England. It's accessible from all the New England states, and it's not too hard of a climb. I'd say the end is a little is steep, but it's a climb that most people can manage pretty well. This is the top. And why I really love to end the trip here is, of course, I can point out to the best of my ability all the places that we just rode. And this is a spectacular mountain. It's all granite. Tiffany, Darren, did you want to add anything about Mount Monadnock?
Darren, did you want to add anything?
Go ahead. Sorry.
But my husband and I spent the first year of COVID hiking 86 miles of trails on the mountain. So we've done literally every trail on the mountain. And it's a really special place. Thoreau camped there many times. It's been a magnet for artists and painters and writers and all kinds of people from around the world. It's a mountain that Thoreau could see from his campsite at Walden Pond, actually. So
wow, did not know that. That's interesting. Well, Thoreau's mother was born in Keene, correct?
Thoreau's mother was born in Keene. Yep.
There used to be a restaurant called Henry David's, and it was a shame that they replaced it with a cheap Mexican restaurant. That's the only thing that happened in Keene that I completely oppose. They had a beautiful restaurant called Henry David's, and it was a great gathering spot, and it was in the kind of the traditional architecture. So anyway, this is Mount Monadnock. It's kind of the end of our tour. We climbed the mountain. It's like a 3-hour climb. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours up, and pretty fast back. And if you don't want to climb the whole thing, you could stop on the way, somewhere along the way. And there's plenty of, great spots to stop and just enjoy the view. And then afterwards we go to Kimball Farm and have a nice big ice cream and have a big picnic. And then people just go on their way. So that's the end of the trip. If we can't climb Mount Monadnock, or everybody says we don't want to climb Mount Monadnock, we certainly have other things to do. But everybody in the past couple of years has really loved this ending. So you just bring your hiking shoes and up and away. So Tiffany, Darren, did you have anything else you wanted to add? And I didn't show a lot of pictures of downtown Keene. You could look it up, but it's a great, there's a beautiful museum there, and a lot of architecture to enjoy, and great shopping, and great foodie opportunities, and I think 5 or 6 breweries, right, Tiffany?
And
about the food of Keene, or Luca, if you want to jump on, you can do a pitch for your restaurant if you like.
Yeah, there's fantastic best of New Hampshire's all over Keene. So best food trucks, best beer, best bakery, best the city has really come alive in the past 15 years. My husband and I moved here in 2004, and it's just exploded with so many fantastic opportunities to engage with the community and just really taste the culture down there. Anything else you wanted to say, Darren?
Well, I was going to add that I had dinner in town tonight. I live here in Keene, and my partner had a cocktail made by the best bartender in the state of New Hampshire, according to the most recent survey. So, it's hard to miss.
Was it Machina?
No, this is new speakeasy restaurant.
The new place I haven't seen yet, called Soul. Right? Yeah, remember when I was there, there wasn't one restaurant that was any good, but.
So I'd like to just add one more thing. And first of all, this is Luca.
This is Luca Paris of
Let me introduce myself.
Cafe.
I'm Luca Paris, and it was never Parisi. It was always Paris.
Okay.
I was born in Torino, Italy, and I grew up going summers in Umbria, outside Foligno, Colle San Lorenzo. And in that hometown, we found our name go back hundreds of years in the church. As Paris was always one of the 3 families that lived there, but that's a whole nother story. You don't need to know about that. But one of the things I'll tell you about Keene, and when you come to visit Keene or the Monadnock region, first of all, I've lived here the last 20 years, moved here from New York in 2000. And what the presentation, Lauren, that you and Tiffany have put together, and the stuff I've been hearing, it just makes me want to go on this trip. And I live here. I mean, it's really incredible. And I'll tell you a quick story about my father, who came to visit after I opened the restaurant. His hometown in Colle San Lorenzo, right outside Foligno, Foligno's a valley town. And then you have these little small mountain towns around. We weren't far from Assisi, Spello, Spoleto, Assisi, that area there. And the first thing he said about Keene is that it reminded him so much of Foligno because, again, being a valley town and all the elevations that go around it, he just fell in love with the area. And it just was a big, I felt it, but it's more than just the architecture. It's more than just everything else. It's the people. Every person you run into here is welcoming. And they welcomed me when I first came here and still am a Flatlander after 20 years. I knew that. It's funny because that's my kids are born here. And I always say there's two types of natives to an area. One that can't wait to leave and go experience somewhere else, and one that loves to stay or comes back. But there's only one type of transplant in this area. It's someone that comes from another area and once they get here, they fall in love with it more than any other place in the world. And I'm not saying that because I want you all to come to Keene and the Monadnock region for the tourism aspect, but I want you to come here because it's such a beautiful place to experience. And I'm really looking forward to it. I believe that in about a month, I'll get to do a little food presentation, right? I think.
Yes, exactly. Luca's going to be doing a cooking show.
And one of the things I want to do, I want to kind of hit on some of the places you're going to. And I'll actually, my idea was to do some food from each area in my presentation from each restaurant, and just my take on what they have, but it comes from my heart. I love to introduce our cuisine and our town to all of you. So thanks for letting me just be on for a half a second, and I'll let you get back to regular scheduled program.
Thank you, Luca. Yeah, his restaurant's great. And if it's a nice day, we sit outside in full view of the downtown, the church, the beautiful church in downtown Keene. And Luca is, as I said, he's the president of the Chamber of Commerce. So we're really excited to be working together because this is a long-term project. I mean, we really are working the long trail here. So we want you all to come this year. We think it's a great, if there's been any year I've been doing this work, this is a year to discover your backyard. Everybody seems to be wanting to, and a bicycle tour, as you know, you see a place intimately. You get to know a place, you smell it, you taste it, you feel the raindrops if it rains, and you feel the chill and the colors of the season. So well, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Darren. And I just wanted to see if anybody has any questions. A little practicality. Like I said, it's based out of one hotel. So people usually, I would say 8 out of 10 people drive here. You can fly into what's the hotel?
Manchester or Boston.
That's correct. You can fly to Manchester. It's an hour away. You can get a shuttle from Manchester. From Boston, it's I make it an hour and a half. Maybe from the airport, it's probably 2. It's an easy, lovely drive up Route 2. So it's really accessible. From New York City, I think it's like 4 hours. Southern Connecticut, Pennsylvania. We've had people from Texas, and I said Idaho. They came from Idaho. I don't know how far they took a week long to get here, but it's a great destination from wherever you are. We have bicycle rentals. We have e-bikes. Certainly, if you want to do it, but the hills seem a little daunting to you, don't worry. We have plenty of e-bikes on these trips. We've had usually 2 out of 10 people on an e-bike, which makes pretty much levels everything. And or you can bring your own bicycle. A lot of people just bring your own bike, which is why a lot of our domestic trips are based out of one place, because or loop back to the original destination. So you can bring your own bicycle, which more and more people are enjoying doing. So and then we can help you with the pre and post tour, everything. Some post tour ideas would be Vermont, would be Portland, Maine. Some pre-tour ideas would be Boston, of course. Again, Maine, the White Mountain area of New Hampshire. So I mean, it's a great kind of you could kind of cushion on both sides with a lot of interesting things if you want to come for make this make it a New England tour. And we all know New England so well. We're happy to create a little itinerary for you if you're coming from far away and want to spend a week or so in New England, which of course is certainly worth your while. Boston and the North Shore and Portland, Maine. These are all places that are very close, sort of like Europe. Everything's close by. So well, anyway, I wanted to leave a little time, not much. I mean, people probably want to take off, but if you have some questions, did anybody want to raise their hand or unmute themselves to ask any questions to any of us?
Lauren, we have a question on the added cost of renting a bike.
Road bikes are $275 and the e-bikes are $400.
And we had a cost on the, a question on the hotel, which Darren answered, but I think maybe we can answer it for everyone.
Tiffany, why don't you answer that, or Darren, you go ahead.
Yeah, so we're staying at the Fairfield Inn in our downtown area for all of our tours, except in fact, Tiffany, if you can move forward 2 slides. We're staying, yeah, we're staying, that has a lot of the logistical details. But we're staying at the Fairfield Inn for all of them except one date that is separate and distinct from these. We're having a specific women's only tour. That one will stay not at the Fairfield Inn, but we'll stay at the Marriott Courtyard for that particular tour.
Yeah. Lauren, we have a question. Not all riders travel at the same pace. So can you talk a little bit about that? How do you coordinate meeting places and times?
Exactly. Yeah. So we have this, kind of ciclismo mechanism of doing our routes where every 10 miles we have a regroup spot, right? So, and we plan them in great places, whether it's, like I said, the farm with the animal the woman who does the animal rescue area, or if it's in the town of Nelson. So every 10 miles, we literally have our guides stop at that 10-mile point. And we find that if you're going 16 miles per hour or 14 miles per hour, if you're going 10, really, if you have a stop every 10 miles, that kind of is an accordion process where people kind of regroup. So we call them regroup. So you're absolutely welcome. And we want you to go your own pace and take as many photographs as you absolutely want and stop wherever you want. Because that's really what's very important, that you just do it at your own pace.
I also think it's worth adding here, Lauren, that on this particular tour, we've got both long and short options. There's many days where, if you're a particularly avid rider, you might do a 50-mile loop. And that's what we presented here in the presentation, but there are shorter ones available on most of the days. So oftentimes, the group will split into different kind of ability levels, and some will tackle more harder routes. Others will tackle ones with fewer climbs, less miles, fewer miles. And
if you have a non-cycling participant, that's fine. They can either drive along with us or they can stay back in Keene. There's plenty to do. I mean, there's plenty of galleries and little museums to go to and shopping. And if you brought your own car, you can do your own little tours. So, I mean, it's actually a great destination in its own right.
We have a question about new dates for new shows that we'll be doing.
Yes. Next week we're doing Northampton. Let's see, the following. Oh gosh, you're testing me. I don't have access.
Lauren, is it possible we can send an email out?
Yes,
or point people to a page on our website?
Last week we did the Elba trip. Next week we're going to be talking about the Pioneer Valley, which is a 4-day, 3-night, a 4-day trip in Western Mass. And we have Luca Paris coming, doing the cooking show on the 7th. We have the Eroica, which is going to be Marcello again, talking about our amazing trip in Tuscany, which includes the Eroica Festival. I see Richard Fries here. We might pull Richard in to do another one of his amazing talks about cycling performance. So these have been really great ways to get to know people and to field some questions.
Yeah, we've also got the one at the end of the month on the 31st on the Adirondacks trip.
That's correct.
So that one's coming up as well.
Yeah, so our other trips, so we have a trip on the coast of Maine. We have a trip in Vermont, southern Vermont, and this is a good trip to do together. We had one couple that did southern New Hampshire and southern Vermont. That's a great combination. We have a trip in the Adirondacks, Hudson Valley. We're developing a trip in Quebec that'll be out soon, and a trip down to Maryland. So we're really excited about the Northeast. Obviously, we think it's going to be. We're really going to be focused on our Northeast experience. And the Finger Lakes, of course, forgot about that. Of course, can't forget the Finger Lakes. That was Barbara Frank a couple weeks ago who spoke all about, the Finger Lakes wines and the history of winemaking in the Finger Lakes, which is a gorgeous area. Times of year, I mean, we go every month, as you can see. Every month offers May and is lush and green, and June is nice long days and festivals, and the summer is a great time to come and bring your bathing suit and go swimming, and then the fall. Well, if you haven't been to New England in the fall, people don't leave. People often do not travel outside of New England in the fall because they just love the fall foliage. I mean, it is something to be experienced, and particularly by bicycle. There's nothing quite like diving into a sherbet covered mountainside, as I say.
I have
Anybody else
a
have any
question that came in about the women's only dates.
Yes, that's in
Um,
October. That's October 20th.
Yeah,
Actually, I think we're missing one date here, right, Darren? Or no?
No, that the women's only date's not listed here.
Okay.
That one is actually October 6th through the 10th.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, great. And in the chat, I guess you can put if you want to put our contact information in, Tiffany, our emails, you can call me on my cell phone. Everybody knows I love to chat about bike tours. Second best to guiding a bike trip is talking about one. So I really do love to talk to people about, and as Tiffany and Darren do, Tiffany is our New England specialist and Northeast specialist. So she's taking that on. But I do, really feel free to call, email, set up a time to talk, ask any specific questions that you like. But I really look forward to hosting you here. Any other questions? I want to see if anybody else out there has any questions, anything from the chat.
Nothing else that's coming in. I've been answering
Hi,
them.
Joan. I see a couple of my friends here. I'm going to say hello. And Richard Fries, it's Mr. Biking. Hi, Richard. I'm going to say hello to Richard.
Luca, thank you for staying and being part of this tonight. It was so fun to have you here.
And we're doing a lot of private trips too. So if any of these dates don't fit your, we can do private trips with the same pricing, more or less, even at 6. So you can get in touch with us. Depends on the hotel availability and the pricing of the hotels. But if you have a family that you want to just put something together from a custom point of view, obviously, we can develop anything in this area, any kind of trip that you like.
I asked the question about the women's date being absolute, as to whether there's any opportunity for it to be couples or whatever on it, co-ed. And the reason for doing that, I'm at every home game at Ohio State during the football season. Every one of your dates is on Ohio State home games.
Oh,
So it's like, except for that date, they're out of town. So I'm looking at a date wherein I might be able to go, but they don't correspond with your ride dates. Every one of them.
Boy. Well, we'll think about it there. Is this Bill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Bill. Yeah, we'll see what we can do, Bill. But yeah, we right now we're gonna have it as a women's date. But obviously sometimes if it doesn't start flowing in that direction, we'll let you know. And we could always even like I said, even if you had 4 people and you want to do something midweek, these are all weekend trips. But if you ever want to do anything midweek, we can do that as well. We can put together something, like I said, for a very small group if you like.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any folks that were on this trip this last year? I don't see anybody. I invited some folks to come and say hello, but I don't see anybody in the list. Richard, you got family in Keene, or you're probably out. You're probably cooking by now, but just want to say, hey, put a shout out to Richard Fries, one of the cycling gurus in the area. Well, great. Well, listen, I don't want to keep all of you. It's been over an hour. So want to thank you so much for joining us. And I really do hope you show up at some of these other Ciclismo shows we have coming. We've got some interesting experts at some of these upcoming trips, upcoming shows. Great. Well, good. Well, I will hang on, but feel free to say ciao, and also we've got a full season of course, our Italian trips as well. And our European trips. So we'd love to talk to you about those as well. So have a good evening, everybody, and have a great weekend. We had a little snow this morning.
Lauren, we have one last question.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Do we have a future show on the Finger Lakes?
Yes, we do. We do. Yes, because the last show was very wine focused, but we're going to be inserting another date. We're going to review our dates and probably add that in May.
Okay.
Great.
Bye.
Ciao. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao, Richard. There's Richard. Yep. Thanks, Luca. That was great. Great, good. Josh was left. Kelly, hello, Kelly. Where's Kelly?
Hello, Lauren.
Okay, Kelly, you got to say hello.
Hi,
Got to say hello.
Tiffany.
There she is. Hi. Thank you, Kelly.
Hi,
Now you-
Kelly.
How you doing? Now you really
I'm
have to
glad-
decide. So did you?
Thanks for sending me everything on the Finger Lakes.
Good.
Yeah.
You sound like a lot of fun. We're looking forward to having you. You know, we do screen our people. We don't just take anybody on a trip, Kelly.
Yeah, it looks like a fun trip. It is, I hope to see the May one, but maybe I'd like to know what I'm doing by the time May comes because